Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are going to be doing a UNH campus tour today of campus here in Durham, New Hampshire. Specifically today, we are going to be focusing on COLSA, or the College of Life Sciences and Agriculture. So if you're a prospective student to UNH and you're interested in anything biology, ecology, conservation, sustainability, microbiology, neuroscience, all of these things can be found under our College of Life Sciences and Agriculture. And there's obviously a bunch more that I didn't even mention. So if you're interested in anything biology, life sciences related, you're in the right place. My name is Nicole. I'm a senior here at UNH. I'm a neuroscience major with a sustainability minor, so both within COLSA. And I have loved my 4 years here, being able to take all of my classes within the College of Life Sciences. We're also going to be joined by Veronica. She's one of our tour guides. She's going to be showing us around campus today, specifically. Oh, sorry. I thought that my microphone wasn't working. So specifically, like I said, we're going to be looking at some of those life sciences buildings. So those are going to be buildings that belong to biology, sustainability, conservation, some lab space, some lecture halls, and maybe some classrooms as well. We're also going to hear from one of our professors that's in the biological sciences department. So he'll be able to tell us a little bit more about the classes that he teaches in particular, his kind of perspective as a member of the faculty of this college, and then also his research and how his undergraduates are involved, and also just in general, how you can get involved in COLSA and research here at UNH. UNH is a really proud institution for their research opportunities, so it's definitely something that we're really excited to share with you all today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Veronica, our tour guide. She is standing right outside. Veronica, if you want to introduce yourself before we start going around campus.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Veronica. I'm a senior. I'm studying wildlife and conservation biology here in COLSA. Can you hear me, Nicole?
Yep, can hear you great.
Okay. And today we're just going to go into a couple of buildings. Like Nicole was saying, we're going to meet with the professor, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the inner workings of COLSA. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I would love to answer them. So our first stop, we're going to head over to Kendall, which is home to the nutrition program.
And that was a great point that Veronica just made that I forgot to mention. Any and all questions that you have today, you can use that chat feature that I believe should be on the right side of your screen if it looks like mine. And that way, either a member of our admissions team or Veronica can answer your questions. So if you're interested in a specific major, have questions about your labs, your classes, or even just about college in general, we'd be more than happy to answer anything that you might have. So definitely use that chat feature so that way we can get all of your questions answered. Veronica, do you want to tell me about like where you are on campus right now?
Yeah, so right now we are pretty much in the center of campus, I would say. So we're about to walk on Main Street, which is the main road on campus. In a minute, we'll be able to see Thompson Hall, which is kind of like the pivotal scene of UNH. It's really pretty, especially at this time of the year. So in Thompson Hall, we have the president's office is in there, and that's also where the clock tower is, which rings every hour, every half hour. That's really nice when you're in class and you hear it, then you know it's time to go. But yeah, again, and you'll be able to see it. It looks really pretty right now because it's fall. I'm also on the other side, so to the right of me, we have like a key residential area. So we have some dorm rooms, and a little bit behind those dorms, we have a dining hall. So the way that UNH is spaced out is we kind of have a core of campus where all of the academic buildings are, which is right here. And then we have 3 residential areas spaced out around those areas, around the center part.
Veronica, Lily has a question. She's wondering if all of the COLSA buildings are close together.
That's a good question. Yes. So we have James Hall, Rudman and Spalding. Those are kind of like the key buildings. We'll also be going into Kendall. And they are all located in one key area on this side of campus.
So, Veronica, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your major, maybe how you decided on it and what you've liked about it at UNH so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I kind of came into my college search knowing that I wanted to do something with wildlife and animals and everything. And I knew that UNH had a really great program for that. One great thing about UNH here is we have College Woods, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but that is one of the places where you can go and either if you just like to be outside, you want to walk the trails or run the trails, you could do that. But I also actually do a lot of classes in there. And then there's also a couple of other, I guess, forests around this area that I've done research in. So just knowing that kind of helped me decide that UNH was a great place to be. I knew they had great resources from a major, and I love going outside. So that really is one of the key aspects of why I chose UNH.
And someone else wants to know, how large are the intro classes in COLSA?
So that is going to depend on your major, your year, what classes you're taking. It can vary a little bit. So for me, I've had class sizes from, I think, 10 to 200 people. And I actually had both of those class sizes extremes in my first semester here at UNH. So usually the bigger class sizes are going to be general education courses that a lot of majors need to take. So that's things like introductory biology, chemistry, things like that. But even with those big classes, they all have a lab where you get to meet with a TA and you do hands-on work. It's usually only about 20 or 25 students. So that's really nice. But then also for me, like I said, I have been able to take smaller classes, and that's just because my major is a little bit smaller. But generally, as you move on in your years here, your class sizes will decrease. So me as a senior right now, my average class size is about 30 students, I would say, which is really nice.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to everything that you just said. I think that in my senior year, the number I was thinking of my average when you were talking about it is also 30. My smallest class right now, I believe, has 11 students in it. And then my largest, which is like a bit more like introductory, so there's by its nature a lot more people in it, probably about like 50. But that 9-person class is really interesting because I sit in the front row and I turn around and there's literally like 5 kids behind me on any given day, which is really nice because we get to ask a lot of questions that are like really in depth into the topics and have conversations with our professor, because there's so few of us that if we want to change like the conversation in a certain direction, that we can definitely do that. It's also nice that kind of tends to happen towards your later years, because that's kind of when you start to get into like the complicated specifics of your major, where in your introductory classes, they're really laying the foundation that you'll need a little bit later. I've definitely found the same thing though. All my larger classes, I had either a recitation or a lab. So that way I could always kind of have that small group time no matter what. So I was able to make sure that I could ask my questions, like double check on my homework, anything that I needed to do was really, I was able to do it all. Also, all of your professors are contractually obligated to hold office hours. So in every class you'll ever take at UNH, your professor, which is not going to be taught by a grad student, it'll be taught by a real professor. And they are going to hold office hours at least once a week, which I have found is the most beneficial way to get extra help because you can sit down with them and ask them your specific questions. I always brought like specific homework problems that I was confused about, or maybe like you want them to help you read over an essay before it's due. And that way you can really get the one-on-one help. That's kind of hard in the lecture hall. So I've always kind of used that as my space for questions. I don't know, Veronica, if you have kind of a similar experience with office hours.
Yeah, definitely kind of similar. I will say that you definitely should go to office hours. And I also find that professors are willing to meet if you can't meet their office hours. So actually, last year I was online. I was taking 5 classes and I didn't really know what was going on. But I was able to meet with my professor. She booked time out of her schedule because I couldn't make it to her office hours. I met with her every single week, and she helped me understand everything. And that honestly is something I will never forget because she was just so kind and willing to meet with me, and it definitely helped me out a lot. So that just goes to show a couple things about UNH professors here. Awesome. So we're just going to go into Kendall really quickly and talk a little bit about the nutrition program.
All right, so as they're going inside, just bear with us in case there's any problems with connection. We have to switch over to our UNH Wi-Fi as we go inside. So that might be what you see our cameraman, Zach, doing. But Veronica's walking through the hallway in Kendall Hall, which is home to many things, but specifically nutrition is why we're here today. So we have a nutrition simulation lab on campus. So that way nutrition majors can get actual real world experience while they're still on campus. And you can approach nutrition from so many different angles if you want to become a nutritionist, a dietitian, and become licensed and help people in that way. Or if you want to go into research, there's also a huge field revolving around nutrition and research and how our body digests certain things and how you can help people be healthy from that perspective. But yeah, we have a bunch of different opportunities. Veronica, anything you want to add about nutrition in Kendall Hall?
Yeah, I'm just going to talk really quickly because there are a lot of people working and I want to be respectful of them. But we have a ton of different opportunities here with nutrition. I know one thing that's really great that they have is the study abroad program. So that is UNH in Italy. It's nutrition classes, and they also have an eco-gastronomy major for that as well. So that's just a little bit about a quick little point about nutrition, and we're just going to head back outside, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about other resources. Again, if you have more questions about nutrition or any other COLSA majors, let me know.
Yeah, so that is a great point that you were just talking about, of that we have eco-gastronomy and different things within nutrition. And you don't have to be a nutrition major to necessarily take those courses. I have a friend who's taking eco-gastronomy right now, like the introductory level, and is also taking a class called Food and Culture. So that way, if you want to be exposed to nutrition and food and cooking, there's ways to do it if you're not a nutrition major. But if that's also what you want to devote your 4 years here at UNH to, then there's so many opportunities to do that. The program that Veronica was talking about in Italy, I'm jealous. It looks amazing. You get to go to Italy for a semester and just learn so much more about food and nutrition from such a different perspective. That's something that I would love to do, and I'm not even a nutrition major. So definitely a lot of different opportunities on campus. But yeah, Veronica, you said you had something else you wanted to add as well.
Yes, so there is a ton of opportunities in COLSA to do research or kind of just get experiences outside of the classroom. So right now we're kind of on almost, I would say, the end of part of main campus, but a little bit ways this way, we have Woodman Farm, which is kind of research with like plants and farming and stuff. I actually know a grad student that's doing research on the productivity of kiwi berries. So she basically gets to go there and try kiwi berries, which if you don't know what they are, they're kind of like a grape that tastes like a kiwi, but it's really cool. So that's one way you could do research here. We also have College Woods, like I mentioned before. So for me, my classes, we're doing things like We did a turtle lab, we did salamander lab, we did a small mammal lab, where basically we go out into College Woods or anywhere nearby, and we get to do hands-on research or kind of looking at what's going on. It's really, really fun, especially when you're in a major in a class that you've been with a bunch of people for a while and you know everyone, and that's just a great way to kind of get that hands-on experience.
Yeah, and as the college was that you were just mentioning, it is 250 acres, so it's huge. They like to call it the living lab here at UNH. So not just for recreation, as Veronica said, but also for academic purposes. But just some other things we have that are about a 5-minute walk from campus. We have our brewing science lab. It was completed in 2018, so it's fairly new. And you can have a brewing minor at UNH. So within life sciences, if that's something that you're interested in, that is a major that, or a minor, I'm sorry, that you can pursue, or just classes that you can take if you're interested in it as well. We do have the Woodsman Farm, like Veronica was talking about, some other examples of research projects happening on Woodsman Farm, reducing our dependence on pesticides and also working on protecting pollinators. So those two go hand in hand, but just some examples of things that you can study. We also have the Fairchild Dairy Farm. So there is a 20 cow herd that is managed by students under our CREAM program. We're only one of 3 universities in the countries where students have their own dairy run business. And we do have a organic dairy research farm, which is very unique to UNH. So if that's, again, something you're interested in, lots of opportunities. And finally, we have the Vet Diagnostic Lab. So that's where they diagnose and monitor disease in our area for anything from pets to wild animals. And they work across the entire state and with the rest of New England. You get hands-on experience. So if you're interested in becoming a vet or any kind of veterinary science, vet tech, then this is definitely a really great place for you to get real-world experience that's kind of unmatched anywhere else. And within their student workers that apply to veterinary school, they have an 88% acceptance rate. So it just goes to show how absolutely valuable your experience is when you work there. But back to kind of more classroom things, I'll give it back to Veronica. She can kind of tell you more about the building we're in right now.
Yeah, so we are in James Hall right now, which is home to the Natural Resource Department. So that is what I am a part of. So that includes majors like mine, so wildlife and conservation biology. We also have environmental conservation, sustainability, environmental science, forestry, pretty much anything to do with the natural environment is home in this building. And then this is kind of what a typical natural resources lecture would look like. So as I mentioned before, you usually have a lecture, which is kind of where you're taking notes, you're in class. And that can range on sizes. Usually I would say those are like around 60 people, again, depending on class and everything else. And then we have a couple of lab classrooms that we'll see, hopefully in Spalding. But those are the smaller classrooms where you're doing kind of hands-on work. If you are in the lab, you're doing things like looking under microscopes or something like that. If you're not in a lab and you're outside, then you're going into the woods, like I mentioned before, measuring trees, all things like that. So those are just a couple of key points about the Natural Resources Department.
Veronica, I have a couple questions for you if you're ready.
Yeah. Yep.
So someone asked, is it difficult to switch majors if you decide that your chosen major is not your right fit?
No. So if you are, I will say it's easier if you are in switching majors in the same college. So for example, if I wanted to switch to biology or something like that, that would be easier for me than switching to English or something like that, which is in COLA, College of Liberal Arts. However, if you did want to do that kind of inter-college switch, all you need to do is talk to your advisor, kind of get them on the roll and seeing what you need to do in order to change, and you can get that in the works. Generally, it's not that difficult of a process. I know it can sometimes be a little bit stressful to think about, but it definitely is not as difficult as you would think it is.
Awesome. And then someone else asked, what is the biggest class you were ever in during your time at UNH?
Yeah, so the biggest class I think was, like I mentioned, the one that was 200, 250 students maybe. And that's pretty much as big as they will get here. So that was actually my intro biology class. I think it was molecular and cellular biology. So a lot of majors in COLSA have to take that. So that's, my major, basically every major in the natural resource department, biology majors. So pretty much everyone has to take that. That's kind of why that class is so big. But again, you have the lecture where the professor kind of teaches you, and then we had labs. For that class, we got to work with like nematodes under a microscope. I found that really cool because it wasn't something I was used to. And again, I think there's maybe 20 people in my class, and was hands-on, got to talk with the TA every single class. So generally, those big classes can seem kind of scary, but usually they're really not that bad.
And then can you minor in something that is outside of they said the liberal arts, but I'll also ask you, can you minor in something that's outside of like life sciences?
Yep, so you can minor in pretty much any minor that we have here at UNH. You can attach that onto your general major. So for example, I'm actually trying to get an Italian minor. Usually you go through that process once you've taken all of the classes, and the advisor just has to sign off, but that minor is in the College of Liberal Arts, and I'm in COLSA, so it really is no problem. You can take a minor in pretty much anything that you're interested in, which is really great.
And then Emma wants to know why we both chose UNH. So I'll go first, then I'll let you answer, Veronica. So I think I applied to UNH just because it honestly just like it seemed cool. I was interested. I liked the New England area. But then when I got a little bit more serious after I got in and was really choosing my school, I looked and I saw that they had the program I wanted, which was huge. And I toured the campus and I really fell in love with being able to feel like you could walk through the woods. It felt very homey to me. I felt super comfortable and I really just loved the campus. And even though we're still like rural and like a neighborhoody kind of feel, we were still 20 minutes from Portsmouth, only an hour from Boston, and we were close to ski mountains as well. So I felt like I kind of had the opportunity to do everything while still kind of feeling like I was like a little woodsy and it's still at home.
So I guess why I chose UNH. So UNH was actually like the first school that I ever toured. I came here, I automatically fell in love with the school. Like I said before, I knew kind of what I wanted to major in. And I knew there was a great program for it. I knew I wanted to go out of state. It basically had checked off all of my boxes. So that's kind of why I came to UNH. But then when it came time to actually deciding to come here, it was a little bit more challenging because I live about 4 hours away and I'm really close with my family. So it's kind of difficult for me to push myself out of my comfort zone and come to UNH. But ultimately, I did make that decision. And I'm really happy I did that because I haven't regretted coming here. And I've had so many different opportunities, which has been really, really great. So I'm not sure if there's any more questions, but I think we're going to walk through James and kind of check out what the rest of this building looks like. But if there's any more questions, Nicole, let me know.
Oh yeah, there is a couple more. So we can keep asking while you're walking through. So let me switch to this. There we go. Okay. So we have a couple more questions. First of all, how do you know what classes that you need to take?
That's a good question. So when you are a freshman coming in, so your first semester, when you go to orientation, they'll actually help you pick out your classes. So you kind of go to like a big meeting with a lot of other people in your major, and they'll plan out your classes for you. For me, I took, I think, 2 classes specific to my major, and then one general education class, and then a discovery, which is just kind of like a way to put a foot in every single subject that we have here. So you have discoveries and all different things like the arts, humanities, things like that. So your first semester, back to the question, your first semester is picked for you. And then after that, you meet with an advisor. So every student has an advisor. Usually sometimes they're your professors, they work within the department. They've, been doing that for a while. For me, my advisor, he was actually a professor for 2 of my classes my first semester. He helped me out a lot. I would go there. He wouldn't help me with things besides just classes. So they can also help you with figuring out life after college or anything like that. But in general, you have to meet with your advisor at least once a semester to pick out your classes for the next semester. So they help you with that. And your classes are also on the UNH website. So we have all of the majors, and you just go into the major and you'll able to see what classes you need to take. We're just going to go outside, I think.
That's perfect. And then another question, Veronica, do you know, is there any assistance in applying to graduate school?
That is a great question. And there definitely is if that's what you are looking to do. So just one second while we step outside. So before I answer that question about graduate school, this is actually the outdoor classroom. So this is a part of the Natural Resource Department. Professors can book to have their classes here. So for example, one of my professors, she actually prefers to have class outside, especially now with COVID. So she booked this classroom. So when we come out here, we'll chat about things going on for the week. And it's really nice to just be outside and kind of get that nice mask break. But back to the question about graduate school. So yes, that's something that your advisors will help you with is if you're looking to go to graduate school, they can help you look for different schools, look for different programs, help you with recommendations, pretty much anything that you need to do with that and get advice, they can help you with that. And if it's something that maybe they're not specialized in, they can always refer you to someone else in the department or in the college to help you with
that. We still have more questions.
Okay.
Someone wants to know about if there is any Greek life or opportunities for intramural sports on campus.
Yep, that's a great question. So Greek life, we do have Greek life. So fraternities and sororities. If it's something that you're interested in, it's definitely there. If it's not something you're interested in, it's not really prevalent. And that's kind of the case for everything here at UNH. If you want to do it, it's definitely there. If not, you don't really have to worry about it. But we do have a bunch of different fraternities and sororities. They do different events on the weekend. I know a ton of people that are in sororities and they absolutely love it. And they've been able to meet a ton of different people and just go to these amazing events. And I think that they are just really happy that they were able to get that opportunity. And then the other question about, was it intramurals or club sports, Nicole? I could talk about both.
Intramural sports specifically. Okay,
so we do have intramurals. So those are with the Hamel Recreation Center, also known as like the gym on campus. So those are pretty much any sport that you can think of. I know we have like flag football is popular, basketball, volleyball, spike ball, I think we just added. So kind of crazy sports, but then also just something you might find at high school, which is really nice. That is included in your tuition. And then there's kind of different levels. So if you're really competitive and you've played the sport for a while, you can join that team. Or if you've never tried the sport before and you kind of just want to try it out, you can join a specific team for that too. And those run year round. They kind of cycle through the different sports. So you can always try something new, which is really great.
All right. Somebody wants to know what job you would like to be able to get with your major, specifically, Veronica.
That's a great question. I think in general, so my major is more focused on graduate school is like the next step. So going to graduate school and doing research or doing a project, something like that, so that you can continue on doing more research, maybe get your PhD, something like that. I know a ton of people in my major that are hoping to do that, something with research, maybe designing their own project, things like that. But it doesn't just have to be research, which is something that I kind of was happy to find out, because me particularly, I'm not interested in research. I want to do like education. So I'm hoping to go more into something like a natural resource place or something like that, and just doing general education. And then there's also other opportunities to work with animals, like through zoos or rehab or things like that. So it's kind of a big range. And just because you're in one major doesn't really mean that you're tied down to a specific job, because again, it does depend on your extracurriculars and the classes you take and things like that.
Yep, that was perfect. And then another question. Somebody visited campus earlier in the year, but they weren't able to walk around campus or into buildings, I'm sorry. So they want to know, how are the dorms and what do you like to do for fun in the area?
Okay, those are two really good questions. So how are the dorms? I guess it really depends on where you're living. So me, I've kind of lived in a bunch of different buildings. So my freshman year, I lived, which is gender inclusive housing. It's generally termed like a bigger building. It had upperclassmen too, wasn't just freshmen. I loved that experience. I got to meet a ton of different people. But we also have different themes. So it could be freshmen only. It could be, based on what you like to do, like a sports hall or your specific college. So we do have a COLSA residence hall, which is called Peterson. Just if that's something you're interested in, it's kind of a nice community where you can all do your homework together. And then just in terms of like rooms, usually you have like a double, and you can either get like a random roommate or you can pick somebody that you know. And again, like I mentioned before, those residential areas are kind of spaced out. So 1, 2, 3, and then the central campus is right here, which is really nice. You're never really more than like 7 minutes, I would say, is the average from anywhere that you need to be, library, the dining hall, things like that, which is really great. So that's just a little bit about housing, but that was a very quick spiel. So let me know if you have more questions about that. And then also kind of what to do for fun on the weekends. There's a ton of different things to do. So we have the MUB, the Memorial Union Building, so you can go in there. There's a game room. You can go to movies. They have big events in there sometimes, like bingo, things like that. Or you can go off campus. We have a bus system that goes off campus. We have a train station that can take you to Boston or Portland. So if you wanted to go off campus, that's there. But generally, there's always something to do on campus on the weekends, which is really great. But pretty much there's no way to be bored on the weekends. There's always something to do, which is really nice, especially if you need a break from your classes for the week, just kind of get out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I did live in Peterson Hall my freshman year, so I was surrounded by a lot of life science students, which was nice. It feels like in the lounges, a lot of people were doing the same homework as me, so we could kind of like help each other study and go through practice problems and stuff like that. Somebody did ask about the new health science labs, and there is a really great link in there. So those are for nursing students, and we just got a huge new facility for that, which is awesome. But we will have a nursing tour later in November. The link is in the chat that you can register for that if you want to see those facilities. It's a great opportunity. And Veronica, are you in the honors program?
I am not in the honors program, but I can talk about that a little bit. We're just going to walk over to Spalding while I'm answering that question. But we do have an honors program. If you wanted to be in the honors program, it's more of like an invitation basis. So you can get invited your freshman year right out of high school, or, after that, if you do really well in school. I do know a lot of people in the honors program. So usually what you do in order to qualify for that is you'll take some extra honor specific classes, or you just take regular classes that have an honors addition to them. You do like either an honors thesis or like a project that you like present at the end of your senior year. In general, it's just a really great thing to have, on your resume, and kind of get some more experiences with different classes and stuff like that.
So someone asked if we're going to tour the agricultural area. So we are not going to tour the agriculture area today, just for the sake of time. It's about a 5 to 10 minute walk from campus. There are some videos online, and like we said earlier, there is a tour that we recorded over the summer at the horse barns, so that can kind of give you a sense of the agricultural areas. Like I did mention earlier, we do have that farm on campus. So that is where we have a student-run herd. So there's opportunities there. And we also have a second dairy farm that's an organic dairy farm that's off campus as well. So 2 different really great resources for agriculture here at UNH. I have a friend who last year took a class on called dairy selection. And so her and her like partner were given like a cow, a young cow. I don't know if it was like a calf, but like a young cow that they had to kind of train and take care of and help raise. And then they eventually took it to like a show and were like showing it and seeing what scores it would get and stuff like that. And she's not an agriculture major. She was actually a math major. So there's definitely opportunities to get involved in it. Again, if it's not your major, but if it is what you want to devote all your time at UNH with, you can definitely do that as well. But I'm going to go back to Veronica if you want to talk maybe about like some of the stuff that we're passing as we go.
Yeah, so we are passing some of the, this is one of the COLSA buildings. This is more for things like maybe sciences, microbiome, things like that. We also have a little bit bigger of a lecture hall in here. So that's where I had that first general class. But usually you have a couple great in this building.
Just so you guys know, we're having a little bit trouble hearing you. I think that you might be losing connection a little bit as you're inside. Just in case anybody kind of missed anything that Veronica said, we're walking by some lab space, some classrooms. Right now we're looking at a lecture hall. It's a large lecture hall. So that's where Veronica was saying her largest class was. That's definitely where my largest class was as well. I had molecular and cellular biology in there in my freshman year. And then now we're kind of walking by some different research projects on display. So these are kind of like graduate students, undergraduate students under the kind of the wing of a professor. So you can kind of get to see all 3 levels of education working together. But yeah, Veronica, anything else that you want to add about Spalding Hall?
I will say something that's really cool about Spalding is that it is connected to Rudman, which is directly across the way. That's again another COLSA building that we have here on campus. I think I'm just going to move this way so that people can walk by me. So a couple of things about Rudman that has things like laboratories in there. So for my general biology classes, I took molecular bio and then like ecology. Those are kind of the 2 general biology classes that you take your freshman year, and I did have my labs in there. Those were really cool. For my ecology lab, we actually went into College Woods when it was snowing, which was really fun for me because I just like the snow and going outside. And we also took a field trip to Odeon Point Park, which is the beach, and we got to look at green crabs and kind of do like a little survey of all the animals living at the beach, which was really cool. I definitely loved that field trip. So there's just some examples of things that you are able to do. Even in your freshman year, you're still able to get those experiences, which is really great.
Yeah, I definitely also have gone into College Woods for like labs and stuff. I actually had one lab last year where we went into College Woods and we set up a like a wildlife camera. It looks like a little GoPro, and it turns on when it senses motion. So we set a little like bait trap, and we were looking to see if we could get any mammals come through our camera. I've also gone in and done studies on trees and measured tree size in different areas of College Woods. We've also done different levels of tree canopy cover and species and all different things. So it's cool. You're not just looking at textbooks, looking at pictures. You're actually getting to go outside and do a lot of the work that really professors, people with PhDs do, you can definitely get involved in those levels. Veronica, do you have like a research project that you've done in College Woods that sticks out the most?
Nicole, can I hold off on your question? Okay, Nicole, can I hold off on your question and bring it back? We actually have a professor here that's going to talk to us a little bit about research, aquatics. If you just want to do a quick introduction and tell everybody what's going on.
Oh boy. All right. So I'm Dr. Greg Moore, an associate professor in the Department of Biological Sciences. And I'm an aquatic restoration ecologist. So I just come from a class where we had the last 8 weeks, all semester long, doing nothing but field trips. We're literally going in the field, ruminators, muck roots, mud, water, and whatnot. And now, after the 8 weeks of nonstop field trips, we're trying to piece things together in the classroom setting, hoping the students kind of get a feel for the habitats that we have available to us in New Hampshire, but more importantly, like how you can work within those systems to have opportunities, whether it's employment or future research, internships, things like that, that knowledge of those systems.
Sorry.
You need that lunch. It's a busy place here.
Yeah, I know. Today it's pretty busy.
Yeah. So
yeah, that answers my question. Do we have any questions in the chat, Nicole?
Yeah, somebody actually already asked what would be an example of the hands-on research for a marine biology major. So that's kind of what we were talking about.
Okay, one of the questions is what would be, if you know the answer, what would be an example of like hands-on research for a marine bio major?
Sure. Well, I mean, we've got a bunch of undergrads that have come through my lab, work directly with my graduate students on everything from the salt marsh restoration to habitat rehabilitation, dune, fixing dune habitats. The list kind of goes on and on. I mean, the backdrop for some of my grad students and the work that they do, and we've had students go through the REAP program, that's the Research Experience Apprenticeship Program, as well as SURF, which is the Student Undergraduate Research Program, that pair with me and grad students to kind of get a leg up on research opportunities. And some of them have come out to Shoals Marine Lab, we're coordinating the programming out there, and we'll take coursework on the island in the summer, then bring it back here to campus in the fall and do like a capstone experience from what they did out on the island. So there's lots of ways to do it. I've got students working on invertebrates, microplastics, plants, mud, fish, nekton, you name it. Trying to bring their own personal interest into these wetland habitats. Like, well, I'm focused on the plant community and the biogeochemistry of those systems. I like to bring students' interest into that. So if somebody's interested in the bird community, they can bring that to the table and see how the work that we do affects or benefits rare birds, for example, things like that, or unique fish species, and the list goes on.
That sounds like really interesting and generally just really cool. Are there any other questions, Nicole?
I was just wondering if, kind of two questions. First, if you could give an example of a project going on in his lab right now, and then also advice for students coming to college, how they can get involved with research when they come to campus.
Okay, so Nicole has two questions. One, if you could just give an example of research that you're doing right now, and then also any advice you have for students coming in that want to get involved in research, how they should go about doing that.
All right, I'm going to start with the second half first. And I run the freshman seminar in the Marine Estuary Freshwater Biology major and coordinate that program. And one of the tenets we always say to our students year after year is to be persistent and patient. Like, find a balance between those two ways. A point of pride for UNH faculty that I've really seen at very few universities in all the schools I've been through to get to where I am today is that our faculty want to encourage undergrads to be involved in research, and we prove that. It's not just a desire. Look at what students are doing. All these labs have undergrads in them. level of faculty and the research interests they have, and just start asking questions. They don't always have all the time in the world,
Mhm.
and that's why I actually direct a lot of students to find the grad students of those faculty. Those grad students always are looking for an extra set of hands, and they have the ear of the faculty member as well. So you find this balance between the faculty members, research interests, the graduate students that work in that lab, and you almost always find an opportunity. The research I'm doing right now is largely, like I said, social restoration ecology. So it's like creating a living shoreline, restoring a salt marsh, rehabilitating a dune habitat. You know, I do a lot of work in the Caribbean with mangrove habitats, post-hurricane recovery of mangrove systems. And, you know, currently have 2 new graduate students from the Caribbean working in my lab doing their master's work.
Cool.
And bringing that back to their home country to really train local folk and like get a leg up and be leaders in their own regard, which is really, you know, what we're trying to do at the end of the day here anyway. So yeah, if it's muddy and wet and yucky, I'm probably working in that habitat.
Awesome. And that's a great point too. I know that for my major also, a lot of students, a lot of my friends, all they really had to do was go talk to a professor and kind of see what's going on. One of my friends actually, our freshman year, he went and talked to my advisor who he was doing a project on moose at the time. And he was able to go and do research and help him out with that summer, going into a sophomore year, which was really cool. And all it takes is really getting into their office hours or talking to them and kind of getting that conversation started, and you're on your way, which is really great.
Yeah.
Our final question, maybe before we wrap up, if you want to ask why he likes teaching at UNH and why he thinks it's kind of a unique place to teach.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so why do you like teaching at UNH, and like, what do you think is unique about UNH? Why is it a great place to be?
All right, well, that's easy. Like, first of all, the students are always psyched. They're doing for everything. My classes are, you know, as somebody who largely studies plant communities, I've been always bowled over at how psyched the students are and say, well, I'm not sure I know much about plants or even wanted to, and yet they get in the classroom and they're putting their all in, and they're really enthusiastic and positive, you know, at every turn. So I love that. And I also, I gotta say, all my courses are very field oriented. So this department, this university has given me the latitude to be able to make sure that I can run a class that has been in the field, as I said, for 8 weeks straight. Like, I'm going to emphasize that was 16 field trips in a row. They're all field trips because we're in a great place here, situated in Great Bay Estuary. We're surrounded by water, marine and freshwater environments, and the biology department here and cultural science and agriculture is psyched to get our students out in it and you know, experience it directly. You can find it in the book, but I'd rather find it in person when I can. And then we bring that back in the classroom and make those connections back to the students that have experienced it directly. I think that helps people connect the dots and have a more meaningful experience. So, I don't know. That's the way I'm doing it, and I know a lot of my colleagues here in this department have been doing some amazing field trip work and really inspiring teachers. And yeah, it's a great place to be.
That was a great answer to that question. I also just want to say that it goes both ways. UNH students are great, but the professors here are amazing. We couldn't do anything without them and their help. And again, I just want to thank you so much for coming to talk to us and letting everybody know about what you're doing here at UNH. And again, we just appreciate it so much. Thank you. You too. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we have time just to peek into Rudman, and we're just going to see what else is going on. And again, if you have any other questions, let me know. You guys have had great questions so far.
Veronica, where she's walking right now is that tunnel she talked about earlier that connects Spalding and Rudman. Veronica's actually walking like right over where the tunnel is right now. So I remember the one time that I think I used the tunnel for and it was practical, was I was walking to the bus stop that's on the other side of Rudman Hall, and I had a lecture in Spalding and it was pouring rain. And I had this thought. I walked through the tunnel and out Spalding, and I barely got wet. And I remember like kind of laughing and thinking to myself like that was the perfect purpose for the tunnel. Because other than that, it's just kind of like a fun fact, something that we like to talk to on campus. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. But right now we're walking to Rudman Hall. So again, part of our biological sciences, Rudman is a bunch of lab space. So where we are walking right now with Veronica is going to be where you will have your labs if you take introductory biology. So earlier, Veronica was talking about working with nematodes under the microscope. I remember doing that well too. And that's going to be down on this floor. There's also a bunch of research space that professors have, so that way they can kind of have their lab space dedicated on campus. Offices for professors are also in Rudman. But we're really going to be able to see some of that lab space that you're going to get hands-on experience in as early as your first week on campus here at UNH. So you can kind of see there's a bunch of different lab benches and seats with different technology all around. I remember in these labs using microscopes to look at those nematodes. But in our ecology-based labs that were also on this floor, we were doing soil samples and using Excel to calculate and see like tree diameter and how that was dispersed through college woods. So it really ranges from what you would picture of the pipettes and your microscope all the way up to doing field work in college woods and then coming back to your lab space to kind of do your data analysis. Every step of the way has kind of, for me, been on this floor in Rudman, which is nice. It was always kind of located in a place that I knew where I was. Veronica, I don't know if you have any other experience of, I'm assuming you took 411 and 412, the two introductory courses.
Sorry, Nicole, you were cutting out.
No problem. I was just talking about the two introductory semesters of biology, because that's what that floor always reminds me of.
Yeah, I definitely, I have a class actually down this way a little bit, and every time I walk down that building, I just remember picking up green crabs in the middle of my lab, and that was really fun. So definitely a great memory to have. But I do want to see if there's any last questions, because it is almost time to go before I do a quick close.
Yeah, definitely start doing your wrap up, and I'll let you know if there's any last questions before we sign off.
Okay, so again, thank you all for joining us. We definitely have had a good look at all the different things that COLSA has to offer, between the nutrition department, the natural resources department, and then getting a little bit more into biology and things like that. So definitely a lot of things to do here. There's a ton of opportunities to do. Research, just so easy to do. All you have to do is talk to professors about that. Study abroad. We have a couple of different study abroad specifically for UNH from this department. So we do have the UNH in Italy study abroad. That's kind of with the nutrition department. And then we also have the UNH in New Zealand study abroad, which is kind of more for my majors, the natural resource department. So those are just some other examples of ways you can get experiences outside of the classroom. But again, thank you all so much for joining this live tour. And I just want to reiterate how much I've loved being in COLSA at UNH and all the great experience I've had. And I just am so happy that I've been able to kind of get out and go into college woods and have classes outside, which is really great. But yeah, do we have any last questions?
Yeah, so someone did just ask about neuroscience, which is my major. So quickly, I'll tell them a little bit, but also that link right underneath it is to the page about neuroscience in COLSA, so you can see your coursework. So in your courses, you'll be kind of exposed to the introductory level of neuroscience research, so doing individual nerve level things. But if you want to get involved in research on campus, there's so many different opportunities. Just last semester, I was involved in a lab that did EEG studies where you put that like big cap on someone and read their brain activity. And they were doing that with patients who had degenerative disorders such as Parkinson's and comparing that to like the normal controls on different memory tasks. I've also started to look at and compare statistics for a study that was done in pediatric concussion cases. So really a bunch of different things if that you're interested in, tons of opportunities for neuroscience and psychology research on campus. definitely check out that link so you can see the courses that you want to take. But there is absolutely no shortage of neuroscience research on campus. There's professors that study communication and how that works in your brain, and everything is small to a cricket, all the way up to us college students and different studies in that form. So definitely a bunch of different things that you can do. But I just want to also echo Veronica as we close out. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I hope that we were able to answer your questions and make you a little bit more comfortable about your college decision. If you want to check out the horse barns or the nursing program, anything like that, definitely look at those other tours. But we're so happy that you joined us today to learn a little bit more about life sciences here at UNH. I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel so that way you stay updated with our new tours that we're coming out with, and definitely check out ones that we've already done as well so you can see some more parts of campus.